Good evening. Welcome. This is All for United. It's Saturday Night Live. We are back again. And as ever, we've got the football in the background. So I'm back in my social seat as opposed to my high chair of knowledge that we're usually sat upon. And we are currently watching Belgium against Romania. It's 1-0 at the moment to Belgium. There's about 10 minutes left of the first half. And that's a very interesting group. I'm pleased that's the last group of them, actually, because when we get to that group and have a little chat about that, there's a fair few permutations that could go ahead there with the score being like it is. But Dan's disappeared. He's so excited about it. He's like, I'm not doing this. We're going to go and watch the telly. That sounds far more exciting. Let's hope you guys watch him. Don't do that. Feel free to do what we're doing. Have the football in the background, but listen and enjoy and get involved in some good old-fashioned Saturday night chat about the football. As you can see, it's the fairly usual kind of crew. We've got the TikTok legend himself, Mr. MUFC Beanie 7. That's where you go for his TikTok. I'm reminding him now for when it comes to the end of the show.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad to be back. Looking forward to a good football chinwag.
No, absolutely. Me too. And of course, my right-hand man on the left-hand side, Mr. Dan Field, is back. And it's not post-England, so I presume you're doing okay today, Dan.
I am. I'm just not looking forward to looking back over these group predictions. I don't think I've done very well.
You believe that, do you?
Well, definitely not with Hungary.
Hungary, yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, the front line of what we're talking about at the moment will be the Euros. I have got an interesting question based on some sort of Manchester United news, if you could call it that, as we press through. But I do want to just kind of run through the groups, because once this game is finished, we're going to be 2 games in for every single group, with 1 game obviously remaining. And as we said before, 8 teams will be removed. That'll be a third of the competition by the end of this round as you move into the group 16. So I suppose if we're going to take a look at a group, just because I'm this way inclined, Group A is the place to start at, because it's the first one. And I would feel a little bit odd going straight into C or F or anything like that. So Group A, obviously, we've currently got Germany at the top with 6 points, Switzerland second with 4, Scotland third with 1, and Hungary sitting at the bottom with absolutely nothing whatsoever. Now, of course, the 3 of us made our predictions as to what might happen. Sorry, I've already seen it, so I know what's coming in this particular group. Now, it's interesting. Beanie, you went Germany top and Hungary second.
Yeah.
Not feeling so good about that one at the moment, are you, I suppose? But, of course, Scotland play Hungary. So this is a big one. Scotland's still in with a shout of qualification, whether that be through finishing second or be one of the third lucky losers, effectively. So we've got those possibilities. But, of course, if Hungary do beat Scotland, they do have the possibility of going through as a lucky loser too. So how are you feeling about this group? Because Germany absolutely powering through it, aren't they?
Yeah, Germany just look miles better, don't they, than everyone else in that group at the minute. To be fair, they've looked better than I thought they would. I thought they'd be a bit shaky, but they've looked very good, very controlled over the 2 games. Switzerland, I think, have looked much better as well. They just look like a good tournament team, don't they, Switzerland? They look like they know how to get through games. I'm not sure what they'll do against Germany, but I think it'll be them 2 that finish top and second. I think Hungary will probably beat Scotland. Whether that'll be enough, I don't know, but I think Hungary... I just can't see Scotland winning a game. I think that's the big issue there. I just can't see Scotland winning a game. They've got a lot of fight, a lot of passion, but sticking the ball in the back of the net, I think, is a big issue for Scotland. You're muted.
I am. For some reason, my computer wasn't working. That's because, I don't know if you guys get it, but I'm going to name them because they really annoy me. McAfee, keep popping up in the corner and I can't get rid of them. Even though I've got into it and gone, no, I don't want any pop-ups from you. Honestly, they've invaded. And quite frankly, I've had enough of McAfee. So I will vote for anyone who just gets rid of McAfee, because they are getting right on my breasticles. Right. What I was trying to say there was that's a bold claim to make, Andy. Considering Hungary are sat there with exactly the same goal difference as Scotland. Could you not argue that they're also struggling to put the ball in the back of the net?
Well, yes, but I just think Hungary will have more of a threat than Scotland. I think Scotland got that point. Was it a point against Switzerland? I think it was. Just out of
Thanks
pure,
to McTominay.
yeah, a nice deflected goal by McSauce there, and yeah, I think with Scotland, it's all about if they can keep the other team out and get a bit of luck the other end. I don't think they have any real sort of potent threat, to be honest, but I may be wrong. We'll see.
I'm hoping you're wrong. I'm going to go for that. Speaking of being wrong, Dan, you're. I don't even want to say it really because it just feels so bad. He's gone again.
He's off.
His idea was that Germany would finish second in the group to Hungary, and I remember in the whole show me sort of not really getting too upset with anyone, but I did look at you and go like, "What are you on?" And you came up with this one, the stats say, and this is one of those moments where the stats is really biting you in the backside, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. So it wasn't even just the stats; it was the fact that I've seen some of the games and they've looked really assured and quite good, and it just seems to have all gone out the window completely. I think they had lost 1 in 18 leading up to the Euros, and now they don't seem to be able to put a pass together and can't score goals. And then the best player, Sabotslai from Liverpool, didn't even get on the plane. Apparently, he sent his twin brother because he's been shocking. So yeah, all I can do is hold my hands up and say an absolute terrible call, shocking. I mean, I was on the fence with Germany anyway because they've basically played friendlies for 18 months, so it's hard to judge where they're at. And to be honest, they've looked like the best team in the competition, I think, by a little bit of a distance. Spain have looked really good as well. So I was a bit edgy on them. But then hats off to Switzerland, because I think Switzerland have looked really, really good. Probably should have expected it because they've got quite a few more players in there than I thought they had, to be honest. And Jack has been immense for the last 2 years. He's been exceptional. So, yeah, completely wrong. I wouldn't be shocked if Hungary go out bottom, to be honest, on 0 points. Just to really ram it home that I got it wrong.
Which would be hilarious. I'm not going to lie. It's interesting, though, because you've mentioned Switzerland, none of us even came close to thinking Switzerland were even going to come through as one of the lucky losers. Dan, you put, none of that group. You did put Scotland, though, Beanie. You did say that Scotland would be a team that finished third, and now you're saying that you think Hungary might beat them. So you're still going to stick with that? Still going to go with Scotland not to qualify now?
Well, it depends if Connor's watching. If Connor's watching, I think Scotland may just sneak through. If he's not, I think they'll probably finish bottom. Yeah.
Very nice. Don't try and pander to Connor. There's never any need to do that. His bark is worse than his bite. I'm proud to say I did say Germany would finish top, with Scotland finishing second. And so out of, which is, to be fair, what Matt and Andy went for as well when they were on there. So what's this here? It's just a one game versus each team. Yes, absolutely is NT. One game versus each team. And then into the knockout round of 16 is the right format. So yes, there was a few of us. I do think Scotland are in the shout. I do think Scotland are still going to go and beat Hungary. I think they've got a chance, and they've got a good shout to try and do that. So I'm pleased that as it stands, I am in with that shout. But it does look as though Switzerland will be one of the top three in that situation, one of the best 4 teams that finished third. So there we go. Here we go. What's happening here? I made the same mistake, Andy, and Barry scolded me for giving Connor a smidgen of respect. It's not about respect. It's just about, he's Scottish. Well, he's not Scottish, actually. He's English, and he's got Scottish relatives, much like myself. And he's abandoned England for Scotland, which is absolutely fine. There's no problems with that. But yes, I don't think we're giving Connor a smidgen of respect there. I think we're... I can't use the word that we're using really to do that with Connor. We're putting our heads somewhere we probably shouldn't. It's kind of where I'm going there. And he doesn't require that. He's not one of those things that goes on top of a pencil, is he? So
does he?
Hello.
Does he do the same for the women's game?
What? Put things on top of pencils?
No. Follow the Scottish women instead of the English.
Oh, interesting. Do you know what? Interesting fact about Connor. We'll expose him live on air here. Why not? when I first started doing the Women's Channel with him, he actually said, and I quote, this was just before the Euros, I don't like international football. And he just didn't like it at all. And now he's obviously got a bit more into it, what we're watching the Lionesses and that sort of thing. I don't think he's ever really cared about the men's internationals, to be fair. I don't think many of us really do until we get to the big tournaments. All this qualifying stuff and the friendlies, it is all just window dressing, to be fair. And then when he did get there, he just decided, obviously, he just didn't want to do England. He wanted to do Scotland, which is fair enough. You know, listen, I can remember going into a bar in Tenerife, which was a Scottish bar, in my England shirt. And it was one of those moments you walked into the bar and literally everything stopped. They all just looked at the door and like, what is this geezer doing? And they were just in the middle of singing, I think it was Flower of Scotland. And so I added to their complete shock by singing the words to Flower of Scotland. And they're like, they couldn't work out what I was doing, whether I was trying to take the mickey or not. And I got to the bar and the barman's like, you're not here to cause trouble. Please don't be here to cause trouble. And I'm like, mate, my granddad was Scottish. I love Scotland. I've come to watch the Scotland game before I go and watch the England game. And it was absolutely superb. We had a great chat, watched the Scotland game, went around the corner to watch the England game. Some of the Scots people came with us to watch that as well. And then we ended up down the road, England, Scotland, coming down to watch the Wales game that had happened. And by this point, there was just three of us, well, not three people, but three groups of people all supporting England, Scotland and Wales. And at some point, I was wearing a Scottish shirt and a Welsh shirt. We had the Scottish singing the Welsh songs, the Welsh people singing the Scottish songs, the English songs. Honestly, one of the greatest days ever. And to me, that's how international football should be. You can have a bit of banter, but come together and enjoy yourself at the same time. It doesn't all have to be, you know, broken patio chairs and all of those sorts of things. Absolutely. It was like that. The DJ did say, pick a window, you're leaving. And, I can't tell you what my response was to that, but it was with a Scottish accent.
It's funny you should say that as well, because I can distinctly remember in the Switzerland-Scotland game, there were two Scottish blokes in the middle of the Switzerland crowd, just on their own. And I was like, what are they doing in there? Well, they were fine. They lived to see the end, which was good.
It's all about how you interact. If you're there to be a Billy Biggs and you just try and cause trouble, you're going to find trouble. But if you go there and you're genuinely respectful, there's never going to be a problem. And in fact, the only argument I had all day was why I was an Aberdeen fan for Scotland, because apparently I should have supported Hearts. Me neither. I couldn't quite understand why that was such a big thing. I'm like, but my granddad was born in Aberdeen, so you know that's kind of why it was who he liked. He wasn't having none of it. Anyway, that's enough of my life stories. I feel like I've got on Piers Morgan. But yeah, so there we go. That's and all that just from talking about Connor. It's amazing, isn't it? So there we go. That was Group A. Let's pop into Group B and have a look at what we're saying there. Spain, Italy, Albania, and Croatia. I mean, first thoughts on that one. Albania, Dan, doing a lot better than people would have imagined. Stu brought up on Thursday how he was quite impressed with them, but still only on the 1 point. What do you make of how they're getting on in the campaign so far?
I think they've been relatively unlucky, to be honest. I think they probably should have 4 points from their games because they've been quite good. I don't think they deserve. It was Italy they lost to, I think. Was it 2-1? I don't think they deserved to lose that game. They was reasonably good. Probably should have got a draw, and they should have won. Was it Croatia? I want to say.
Yeah, was that a draw? Was it? Can't remember now.
What's the question you're asking? Sorry.
They lost to Italy.
They lost to Italy, drew with
Drew to Croatia. That was it. Yeah. And they should have beat Croatia. But they've played some really, really good football. They've been impressive to watch. It's one of them teams where there isn't loads of household names, but they're a half-decent team when they play together. And I tell you what, a lot of these countries seem to be able to run. I don't know why, but some of the smaller countries that you wouldn't expect a lot from at these tournaments have been covering some absolute distance in these competitions. I think there's only one England player in the top 25 or something like that for distance covered. And I think it's Phil Foden.
Yeah. No, it's a reasonable point. NT saying he thinks did think Italy were going to make it through somehow, knowing you're a great Italy side, but teams like them somehow find a way. And it's an interesting one because Spain, they are top in the group, 6 points. They've definitely qualified. That's what happens when you get 6 points, just like Germany have. Should finish top of their group, barring a dodgy defeat. But yeah, Italy in second, and Albania and Croatia both on 1 point. Now, Beanie, you went Spain and Croatia. Can you see Croatia nicking second over Italy still? And Dan, you said the same thing, so you can follow in after him. What were you two thinking?
Croatia looked like an aging team to me. I know, like, if you're looking from the outside, we kind of see the household names. We see Modric, Kovacic, Gvardiol. They just look like an aging team. They don't look like they've really got the legs. And then you say, like Dan says, Albania, just don't stop. And I think we may be a little bit guilty of being a bit naive as a sort of international football fan in that sort of respect, because we don't really know Albania, do we? So we automatically say, no, they won't do anything. It's only Albania. And it's only when you see them in these tournaments, like, actually, they're quite handy. Do you know what I mean? Italy as well, I think they've done well. They don't look like Italy, though. Like, Italy are normally quite defensive, but I think Spalletti's got them playing a lot more expansive. They look a lot better than I thought they would. But yeah, I can't see Croatia getting out of the group. Spain will beat them, I think.
You going on with that, Dan?
I actually think that Croatia will qualify. Because Croatia have got to play Italy. So I think Croatia are going to beat Italy.
It's Italy, sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it will put them on 4 points. It'll be interesting to see what side Spain put out because they've qualified. So I'm assuming they'll make 9 to 11 changes for the last game against Albania. So I think I think Croatia will get the big 3 points against Italy. I think they might sneak through in second. But that's it. That's the game, innit? It's whoever wins out of Croatia and Italy are probably going to qualify.
Well, exactly that. That's exactly how it would be. You know, Spain and Albania is, not really a massive, an important fixture in that respect. I can't see Albania getting the win, to be fair. But you honestly think Croatia are going to beat Italy, who have, held Spain, really. It was only a single goal defeat. And then, of course, managed to go ahead and get the win as well against Albania. You genuinely think Croatia are going to beat them?
I just don't think they look. They don't look like Italy. They don't look like they can defend all that well. So I think Croatia might have a little bit more success against them. And they did beat Albania, but they struggled to beat Albania, who looked half decent. I think Croatia have just got the players to have
the know-how, maybe.
It's a cup final for them, innit? So I think they have enough nous to get through that game and qualify. But I mean, you never know. They could draw and Albania win, and then I think Albania go through.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I think you're both mad. If I'm honest, again, I went Spain and Italy. To be fair, Matt was the only other person who went to Spain, Italy. Andrew also went with Andrew Wall. This is, of course, still went with Spain and Croatia. I had Croatia through as one of my third place teams. And the permutations for that are difficult. I mean, I think if Spain beat Albania, but I mean, I could see Italy maybe drawing with Croatia, which would be nice because then I'd be right about Group B, which would be lovely. I don't know that I've seen enough from Croatia to think that they're going to go off and defeat Italy. But as NT says, Croatia will be tough, but they could still go out, which is, of course, absolutely true. Nobody else. You put Italy through, Beanie, as your third place team. So did you, Dan. And, of course, that could still come to fruition. So, I think in a roundabout way, all of us were saying that it was going to be Spain, Italy, and Croatia that went through. So we shall see how the brackets go on that one. Right, I suppose we've got to do it, haven't we? Let's go to Group C. Not a lot happening in Group C. And that brings us to the title of our podcast today as well, which we will get to. Let's get to it now because it wound me up. So we read, of course, today that Luke Shaw hasn't drained again. There's a lot of drama at the moment around Gareth Southgate, and I know we briefly touched on this on Thursday, but It's frustrating me that we've had so many England managers that have made the same mistake and haven't learned. We took David Beckham after his metatarsal and he never should have gone. Wayne Rooney was taken when he was injured and he had one of the worst competitions of his career. We consistently do it. Luke Shaw has not played anywhere near enough football. You could argue the same with Harry Maguire, but he'd at least had more matches towards the end of the season. And at that time was reasonably fit. It's frustrating that we've seen Luke Shaw get picked. And I think you brought it up, Dan, that there were other players that potentially could have been given a chance that are actual left backs. This is going to be Gareth Southgate's last competition at this rate, isn't it? Because he's just made some terrible decisions. And even the sound bites, this conversation that you brought out in the other show, Dan, we haven't got another Calvin Phillips. Like, the names of people that we're bringing out is just absolutely mad. Yet you've got Cole Palmer, who's been putting up trees, not being given anything either. So why has he taken Luke Shaw, Beanie? Why, on what planet did he think this was going to be a good idea? Because although it is highly unlikely that we don't qualify and make it through to the last 16, he's going to have played next to no part in us qualifying, in terms of qualifying out of the group. So why did he do that? Why did he put out a final 26 that involves a man who was still only on the cusp of getting back and hadn't had any football or training time, really, to get himself into a position where he's playable at the highest level? I mean, what is he thinking?
I mean, how long's it been since he played for United, Luke Shaw? December? January? For me,
the game against Luton, wasn't it? It's the last one I remember. That marvellous one where Alternative MUFC was going on about the dominoes. I don't recall seeing him much since after that.
For me, you should be in the England team on form and form alone, really. For me, it's Southgate being very safe with his selections. You'd assume he's probably gambling on him being fit for the knockout stages, but then it's like, how fit is he really going to be? If we put him straight in, how fit's he really going to be? When he's took no backup, Trippier looks well out of his comfort zone there. It just doesn't look right on the left, Trippier. It's affecting Foden. You've got people like Mitchell at Palace. Can't think of it. You got the lad at Luton. Just take someone that's more comfortable on the left. For me, it's just very poor management. Yeah, I mean, how you can take someone that's not fit, for one. I mean, he's took 3 strikers. Tony won't play. He just won't. He'll just be doing what Tony does on the sidelines. How hasn't he took another left back? I mean, you've got Joe Gomez there that can play left back. Won't play him. Yeah, it's just poor management. And like with the Calvin Phillips thing, you got Mainu, you got Wharton, you got Gallagher, all midfield players who will do a role in there that Calvin Phillips used to do. Do you know what I mean? Mainu is more than capable of doing that role. How would you feel if you're one of those 3 players and you hear that interview by Southgate? We haven't found Calvin Phillips. Calvin bloody Phillips. We're England, for heaven's sake. I'm sure he mentions Henderson in that interview as well. It's like, what's he doing? It's like he's throwing himself under the bus. It's mad.
What, I'd have even taken Jordan Henderson over this at the moment. And that is saying something, because I don't really rate Jordan Henderson, but at least he's a player who can play in that position and will probably do better than Trent has at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Wazza say about Henderson on the telly last night or the night before that you'd maybe take him for his experience, not necessarily playing, but you'd take him for the experience that he'd bring. You know, I can half sort of take that, but the Trent thing just hasn't worked. And for me, it's stubbornness at this point. I mean, if he plays him again against Slovenia, it's just shocking. But yeah, it's poor by Southgate on loads of levels for me.
Where'd you go with it, Dan? I mean, I know you, like I say, you touched on it on Thursday, but it's just, why do we keep doing it? And even what Beanie's just said there has made me a little bit angry. This whole, we're taking them along for the experience. Like, that should be something you do. But I know what he means. He's obviously talking about the age, the experience, having, an older head around younger ones. But you should be picking your 26 based on who's likely to play, based on the fact it's a lot of games in a short amount of time, especially the group games, and based on the fact that you need to have a plan B. And at the moment, we're not even on a plan B, we're on a provisional plan Z, because he's admitting we're experimenting with what we're doing. And this is exactly it from NT. It's his job to find an alternative or to change the midfield to not require Calvin Phillips, who, let's be clear, is not a starting player for England. You know, you don't sit there and name an England squad and go, oh, yeah, Calvin Phillips is the man who plays in the middle. So why is playing a right back in midfield his solution? And I know, again, we're going to get told off for being biased, but when you've got Kobe bloody Mainu, who has been outstanding for his debut season, and yet you're putting a right back in there, you're destroying the confidence of these youngsters. Conor Gallagher's got energy. And yes, there's an argument that Trent Alexander-Arnold could potentially be in a position where he'd be getting better assists if the team were playing further forward and doing the right sort of things, but they're not. So it's not working. So clearly we're playing deeper because he doesn't trust his midfield, which you could argue is a very Ten Hag way of looking at things.
The frustration for me is I don't disagree with what he said in the sense of we haven't replaced Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips. We haven't. So I personally don't think Kobe Mainu can do what Calvin Phillips can do. It's not the player he is. We see that at Man United. That's why there's big gaps. He's not a CDM. He's someone that plays a bit further up. So what you should really be doing as Gareth Southgate is, I haven't got those two players available. So we're playing a different way. We're going to go to a back three. You've got to do something different, not just go, oh, I can't believe I ain't got Henderson and Phillips. What am I going to do? I'm going to put a right back in midfield. Like, I was completely baffled by people blaming Kane, honestly. The man has made his career from scoring goals, dropping deep and linking play. And he's done it for the last decade. And now we're moaning because he's doing it for England. The frustration for me with England is we put certain players too high on a pedestal that then the manager must feel like he can't take them off the pedestal and he has to keep playing them or whatever. You should basically, if Jude Bellingham's not playing very well, it's the England national team. He should be taken off and Phil Foden should be put on. And that's that. Because they're all equal. They're all as good as each other. Is Foden as good as Bellingham? Of course he is. So if they both play as a 10, you pick one who you think is going to do better against the best opponent. You don't continually pick the same team. If you're going to take someone for experience, you might as well have taken Maguire injured and left Shaw at home. The thing for me is, and I think Stu said it absolutely perfect on the last show, he's made too many mistakes leading up to it. Yeah, I think he felt like he had to make a point. I've got to leave out Rashford because he's not in form and people will say I'm not picking players on form. But then he takes Luke Shaw, who's not played for 6 months, hasn't kicked the ball. The same with Grealish. The same with maybe Henderson's move to Saudi, didn't get played. Well, did play, but it's Saudi. And then he's gone to Holland to try and get himself back in the England team. So I can't pick him because he's not anything. And what he's done is he's sort of shafted himself because now the players that he would normally start and have been really good for him, they're not there. They're not available. But then because they're not available, because he's not giving anybody else a chance, like how Dominic Solanke's not been taken to the World to the Euros is incredible. But Tony has. It should have been Solanke. He's left himself in a position where, actually, Alfie Doughty's never played for England before. Can't take him to the Euros, even though he's been exceptional as a left back last season. And there's many more left backs he could have picked from. But to not take a left back at all, and the defence that we've ended up with, it's bad. I can't see him lasting past the Euros. I still think we've got a chance of doing quite well if we can figure these issues out. The frustrating thing for me is he's not done anything tactically to change the issues. And this is most of my frustration with Ten Hag last season. We're seeing the same things happen and there's no change going forward. I would much prefer to see Alfie Doughty at left back than Joe Gomez at left back than Kieran Trippier at left back.
He did make a couple of changes in that game against Denmark, and it looked better when he brought Ollie Watkins on because we were starting to stretch the play. All of a sudden, we were trying to get him behind, which just didn't look like something we were doing. I can't think of a world where you want Harry Kane to be playing as deep as he is playing to win the ball back. That's not Harry Kane's game.
It is.
Go on.
I would slightly disagree because if you watched him for Spurs in particular, Harry Kane would end up on the halfway line and he'd be spraying a 30-yard pass to Son, who would run.
He does it to me, Nick, as well.
He was on the 18-yard line.
Yeah, but this, I think this is this a tactical issue? Is Kane taking it upon himself that we can't concede, so he's dropping too deep? But then
exactly that.
we've got to
But
have
then he's
somebody
got to
on.
get forward.
Yeah,
he's
well,
not as
we've
young
got to
as
have
he
a,
used to be.
we've got to have a captain on the pitch that either says to Kane further up, or do you know what? If you drop this deep, I'm just going to take your position, and then we've got an out. Whereas it's all getting blamed on Southgate. I genuinely think some of these players are freezing a little bit on this stage. Like, again, Phil Foden is a sensational player.
Oh, blimey, that Romanian's got blue hair.
Ratu?
Ratsu, yeah.
Ratu, that's it, yeah.
Wow. He looks
but
like
yeah,
he's had a sock puppy thrown over it.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think it's a frustrating thing for all England fans at the minute. There could be a better team out on paper. And I did a thing on TikTok about Michael Carrick, and him being the perfect foil for Gerrard and Lampard and whoever. And it was the same thing. It was exactly the same thing. His name's Michael Carrick. He's not good enough, but he was never given the chance. You think about some of the players that have played. Steve Bruce never got called up for England. And it's been the same for absolute decades, the way the England teams run. And we just need a change. We need it. So, do you know what? If Kane's not playing well, Watkins is good enough to play. So swap them, change them. Don't.
But there's also this element of if you don't do those changes, if you don't give these players the chance, what's the point? You know,
Well, why did they go?
You've got people saying, well, I just won't go. Because if you're not going to be given an opportunity, if it's just constantly the same faces, why bother? You wouldn't do it at club level. You'd go and find yourself a different club to play for. So, you know, I think it's a really tricky one. I mean, James Maddison's another one, you know, who's been around and obviously wasn't taken in the end, and he was in there with a possibility. So anyway, let's get on to the group itself. We all said England and Denmark. Matt was the only person who thought that Denmark would finish above England in the group. The rest of us all thought that England made it through. None of us think that the third place team is going to come from Group C. And as it stands, it is England at the top with 4 points, Denmark second with 2, Slovenia third, I think that's on goals scored, and Serbia are bottom with 1. We're all still going to go with England, Denmark. I mean, I can't see another way through it. I'm sure England are going to beat Slovenia, and I'm fairly certain that Denmark will beat or draw to Serbia. So it certainly looks like they will be the top 2 teams. So we're quite happy with our assessment of Group C.
Yeah, I think England will beat Slovenia even if we play poorly. I think we've got more than enough to scrape our way through that game. And I think Denmark they'll at least get something from Serbia. I think Serbia look poor. Yeah. I love seeing Ericsson as well. I saw a little stat just going on the sort of United thing. I saw a little stat that Ericsson's created the most chances in the entire tournament so far. I thought that was a nice little nod to Christian there.
Again, it's an interesting one. You know, Ericsson doing quite well. Didn't quite get as many games and as many opportunities perhaps for United this season to do that. But Dan, how are you feeling about that as well? And of course, the fact that Rasmus and Ericsson are there with the possibility of joining us in the round of 16.
Honestly, there's 3 scenarios playing out in my head, which is Denmark win, we draw, they finish top, we finish second. But then although I agree with Beanie in the sense Serbia looked well off it, something about Serbia that I don't want to rule them out that they wouldn't beat Denmark and qualify, because I think if they beat Denmark, they've got 4 points and they qualify. So, yeah, I do think it'll be England, Denmark, but Serbia are just nagging me a bit. I feel like they're one of them teams that could just come up with a game.
He could. Sorry, I was just checking that because as NT says here, he felt bad for Rasmus. I felt bad for Rasmus because I actually put him down as being the top goal scorer for the competition. So
it's going to own goals.
Run out of games to do that for us. Jarvis has put here, do you hear the statistics under Southgate? England's faced a top 10 FIFA ranked team 24 times and only won 4 of those matches, which, you know, to be fair, I mean, under Southgate, yeah, it shows really where we are. You know, you look at Italy in the European Championship final and we lost to them there. It's not a surprise, really. I don't think it's why we haven't won anything. I think the only other thing I would add about Group C is that Matt was the one who suggested that England might finish second. You mentioned finish second there, Dan. If we do, it's going to be England against Germany in the round of 16. If it is against Germany in the round of 16, we are on our way home, aren't we?
Yeah, we need to avoid that.
Yeah, we have been.
I'll be honest. Once we play Spain, Germany, France, we're going home anyway. So there's not a lot. I think that stat says it all. Once we play a bigger team, there's not much hope we're going to beat them, to be honest. And even if we played, it's going to sound mental, but a team like Albania, I feel like they'd be able to get up for it, and we wouldn't. So
it's like United.
Yeah, I'm not confident at the minute.
Like United playing Newport, you never know. Yeah. It's so similar. I said that on a TikTok the other day. It's like watching United. So frustrating. You could see massive gaping holes in the play. We don't have a bloody left back. Like United haven't for the whole season. The similarities are huge.
I feel sorry for United fans, though.
What's hurting me is the movement.
Yeah,
there's just none. When you see the players in possession of the ball, I can't see them moving.
Stage fright.
Well, is it stage fright?
That's what
because
I'm
telling you now, if that was Marcus Rashford in a Man United shirt, we'd all be talking about how lazy they are.
Yeah. Well, I said this on the last show. Nobody can tell me one player that's turned up to the level we've seen in So Foden, Bellingham, Kane were all absolutely fantastic last season. Make no doubt about it. They were some of the best players in the world in terms of stats, whatever. None of them have turned up for both games. You could argue that some of them have turned up for half an hour, and that's it. And it's frustrating. But I agree with Beanie. It's madness that you watch United all season with no left back.
Yeah.
Come to a major tournament, and I've got to watch England with no left back.
Yeah. It feels to me a little bit like the Gerrard, Scholes, Lampard time, where Southgate's trying to shoehorn Foden in, where Foden don't want to be on the left. Do you know what I mean? If you want to play Bellingham and you can't fit them both in, then you drop one of them.
Just swap them.
And and you put a Gordon on the left. You give us a bit of width out there because there's nothing. I mean, it's like I say, it's like United. We can all see it, but I mean, does he drop Bellingham back and put sort of Foden central? So I thought Foden did his best stuff the other night when he came in central. It's just ended with nothing else, and everyone was kind of there. Like Kane was there, Bellingham was there.
I think the worst thing about that game in particular, I looked at the stats afterwards after we did the show, and I was right. Trent created 5 chances and 3 big chances. So the player that was creating the most for England was a right back in midfield. And that says everything you need to know about the performance. You can't be relying on a right back in midfield to be creating all your chances. Where's the wingers? Where's the striker? Where's the number 10? It's not been good enough. It's frustrating.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was getting at. He's not got the players where he wants them. He's not putting them in the right place. He's not doing the right things with them. So he's got some work to do as young Southgate, and hopefully that game against Slovenia will show that he is starting to learn and he'll be a bit braver, because I think we would all rather see us try something a bit different and maybe not quite make it, because we will definitely be a side that makes it through in the top 3. Like that's almost a given. So we will be with the 4 points. We will be one of those teams that qualifies. And one would argue actually that if we're going to finish in a position, it's got to be better to finish 3rd and not face Germany than it would be to finish 2nd. So look at us, we're talking like Man United again. We want to finish 8th. Wow. Europe, eh? What a time to be alive. Right, let's take a look at D, because it's frustrating me now talking about England again, and we've got them on Tuesday, I think. So where are we now? It's Group D. So we've got the Netherlands, which is, of course, the whole of the 13 provinces, wasn't it, that we said? So the Netherlands joint on 4 points, but ahead, I think, again on goals scored of France. So that's top and second. Austria in 3rd with 3 points. Poland now officially out of the competition because it's highly unlikely they're going to finish 3rd and make it through. And they're certainly not going to finish 2nd or 1st. Now, we all said France and Netherlands. We all said it the other way around, with the exception of Beanie. Beanie said it was going to be France and Austria. Now, obviously, 1 game to go. What do you reckon, Mr. Beanie? Do you see Austria usurping Netherlands still for that 2nd spot? or do you think Netherlands and France look like the two teams that are going to take this group?
I've been impressed with Austria, to be fair. I think Ragnik's got them playing some good stuff. I think Netherlands are just doing what Netherlands do. They've got some good players. They've got some really poor ones as well. How Depay is their striker. How a country like Netherlands hasn't produced a decent striker is madness. I fancy Austria to get something, to be honest. There, what are Netherlands have on 4 points? Are they? Are Netherlands on 3? Are they? Or no, they drew to France, didn't they?
Sorry, I'm in mute, but I'm not working again. Netherlands 4, France 4. So Netherlands top the group at the minute.
Okay, so Austria would need a win, wouldn't they? But yeah, I fancy Austria getting something, and I think that even if they get a draw, I think that probably will be enough to get them through as a third place. But yeah, I've not been hugely impressive. To be fair, I haven't been hugely impressed with France. I thought France would be a lot better than they are. Yeah, I think it's quite a good group actually. I've enjoyed watching the games in this group. I think Austria have been good, like I say.
It's very good.
Yeah.
This is a very good group. Dan, for you, I mean, the Netherlands just about squeaked past Poland. They drew obviously with France. Can you see them beating Austria and fending them off or even just drawing against them, to be fair, to ensure they qualify? What do you reckon? You're muted.
My bad. I think they'll get the point they need to qualify. But I've got to say that I am impressed with Austria. They've been really, really good. I've actually been annoyed at this group because I think France got so lucky against Austria in terms of decisions. It was the first time that I watched a game and went, referees, because every decision went to France. Every single one, the referee gave it to France. And even yesterday, this has obviously been the big debate about Holland's goal. I get that the law states that it has to be disallowed because he's stopping the goalkeeper from diving, but the law needs changing because it shouldn't have been disallowed because he's not going to save it. So even if he had free room to dive, he's not going to save it anyway. So that it needs to be changed in the future. I agree with Beanie. I think France really underwhelming. They really shouldn't have beat Austria. They got lucky. It was an own goal.
Yeah, they haven't scored a goal yet.
Yeah, it was an own goal. And then they got loads of decisions in that game. I can remember being quite annoyed watching it, that every single pull push was given to them. And then yesterday, you could say they're quite lucky that the law reads the way it reads, because that goal should because of the law, which I don't like, but they're lucky it didn't count, if that makes sense. Because then they would be struggling near the bottom of the group. So they've been quite lucky, but I think France and Holland will end up going through. But I hope Austria go through as third place, because I think they've looked really good. Maybe Ralph Rangnick did know what he was talking about in the end.
Maybe. Jarvis is pointing out that England stat is tournaments, including Nations League, which is very, very interesting. NT just saying, I just hope we're actually considering him for manager at United. We're taking this into account if it doesn't go well for Ten Hag by Christmas. So, all of this chat about the Netherlands situation really did get me intrigued. And I was looking through in preparation for tonight's show as to what sort of United angle we could go down. And there's not a lot happening at United, certainly since Thursday, that we could really get a chat about. But they've done this article about Wout Weghorst. And I can't quite see what they're trying to achieve by it. They've basically said that the headline is "Why Wout Weghorst is the Dutch clutch." By which I meant, you only really use it, I suppose, to ensure you can put the brakes on without stalling and start your car, maybe. So it's functional, but not necessarily the most important thing. But anyway, they really do start to try and talk about how good he was. They talk about how he was appreciated by the United faithful, which he was. We know that he tried hard. That was never the issue. But then they try and big him up. He already had previous when it comes to major tournaments, for example. He proved his worth at the 2022 World Cup because he came off the bench to score both goals in a 2-2 draw with the eventual champions, Argentina. And in Euro 24 qualifying, hit 3 goals, including winners against tough teams like the Republic of Ireland. And he was at it again in the Netherlands finals opener in Germany. Obviously, it was his goal that helped them to beat Poland and be in the situation they're in. So I'm not trying to be glib. You'll see why I sit here now and I'm a bit intrigued as to what it is that this article is trying to achieve. The Opta stats, so you're going to enjoy this, Dan, show that the 31-year-old has now moved ahead of his fellow former United attackers, Ruud van Nistelrooy and Memphis Depay, in terms of goals for the national team as a substitute. I feel like we're reaching at this point. We've gone, old tight as a substitute. Only with 7. Only Pierre van Hooijdonk with 10 and Klaas-Jan Huntelaar with 8 have scored more. What do you make, first of all, of that? So we've tried to point out here that Weghorst, most of his appearances must have been from the bench, surely. He's not necessarily a starter. It's a bit harsh to be said. Ruud van Nistelrooy, I can't imagine him being on the bench that much. Do you rate that stat, Dan? Because to me, that is the biggest load of codswallop I've ever heard of trying to make out that Weghorst has been anything other than a bang average player.
I love it. Love it, because I love Weghorst. He's my favourite. So basically, he's the Dutch Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, is what we're saying. Loves a goal from the bench. I'm all for it. I'm really all for it. Honestly, I think he's amazing. Not in the sense that he's a good footballer.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was a better goal scorer than Ruud van Nistelrooy. Like, you're not comparing
absolutely
the same.
Not. No.
You wouldn't be comparing the same. If you're going to compare someone who comes on as a substitute, you want to compare them with somebody else who comes on a lot as a substitute. So compare Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Weghorst, and all of a sudden it's not so great. Although, when we did our quiz, you did surprise us with the fact that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer didn't have as many goals off the bench as everybody seems to think he does.
It was like 26, 27, wasn't it? I can't remember exactly, but it wasn't. We thought he was going to be like in the 60s. Yeah.
So
but he wasn't that many.
Wasn't quite as many. But
to be fair, the Dutch must love him because he does come up with a late goal for them that seems to be important. He's just one of them players. He's like, you won't want him as a starter for your team, but he gives his absolute everything, which is what you asked for. I mean, we were talking about England earlier about giving you everything. You know what the Weghorst is going to do? Like, he's going to give his absolute. It might not be good enough, but at least he tries. Where's Barry going? Oh, I can't see that from here.
Don't know if you can see it properly because the light might be on it, but that's my Ruud van Nistelrooy painting.
Oh wow!
I mean, yeah, I didn't do it. I didn't do the drawing.
You'd start Ruud van Nistelrooy every single day of the week, wouldn't you? But no, I like Weghorst just because he gives his absolute everything, and some players you can accuse of not doing that. So that's why I think he's half decent. They are definitely reaching in the article. They were a little bit.
Interesting. Beanie, I'm going to come to you, but I'm going to throw out a second stat for you. Oh, Jesus. However, in terms of major tournament strikes when coming off the bench, Weghorst has a higher tally than anyone else in the country's history. So first 2 stats, they got 4 goals, by the way. 4 goals is all we're talking about. But they're putting that in there as the more than anyone else in the country's history. Why would you lead with those 2? When you bear in mind that this is the 3rd one, and this one I think is the better one. Okay. Also remarkably, and this one I do think is remarkable, he averages just 108 minutes per goal for Holland, which ranks him above legendary United marksman Van Nistelrooy at 130 minutes. And Robin Van Persie at 147. Why wouldn't you lead with that statistic?
The better one.
Makes him sound like he's a good striker. The other 2 is just like, we just need a few things to flesh this out. It's mad. Like,
the problem with that one at the end, though, is the Van Nistelrooy would have started a lot more games than Weghorst, I'd imagine. What's the appearances? In fact, I'm gonna Google it.
Sabini, what's your thoughts on that one?
Like you say, if you hear that last stat first, you think he's a you think he's a bit of a world beater, don't you? But yeah, he's like Dan says, he's a trier, and he just seems to have that knack, doesn't he, with Holland to get. I mean, I remember the goal against Argentina. He took it really well. It was from a free kick, wasn't it, if I remember rightly? And he turned on it nice little finish. Even the goal the other night was a good finish. That was all he was lacking at United. He had everything else, didn't he? He had the commitment. You know, he put himself about. He just couldn't hit a barn door, could he? But I think he's not been great with any club, to be honest. But he just seems to have those moments for Holland, doesn't he? But yeah, I can't imagine Ruud would have been a substitute too many times. But like I said with Depay, I think it just speaks volumes about the Dutch strikers. How Weghorst is even there, let alone he's coming on to scoring goals. How he's even in the squad, I think, just says a lot about where the Dutch are in that position at the moment.
No, absolutely that, and I do agree that is a much better statistic to be thrown out there about Weghorst. It shows that he is a lot more lethal than perhaps we give him credit for.
Yeah.
No, hadn't fallen off the couch. No, that's not a drama. There you go, Van Nistelrooy picture behind me. There is indeed, and that is just over there, just in case you're wondering. That is an actual piece of David Beckham's England tracksuit. So there we go. So don't come up in my house. Just
I'm going to say everybody knows where I'm going for the next week.
I was going to say, hands on his way.
Nick that poster.
So there you go. That's exactly what that is.
So
I think very interesting. Go on.
Van Nistelrooy played 70 times. Weghorst 29. So it's a little bit different.
There is, but still, that 108 to 130, it still shows that if you extrapolate it, it would still be a better, projection. It won't be because he's 31 and he's not getting any younger. But yeah, there we go. 20 minutes. You look confused, Dan.
Well, I looked at the score and it was 2-0 Belgium, and now it's 1-0 again. What happened?
It's handball.
Oh, well,
handball by Tillemans.
I'm still on 1-0, so I'll let you know in a minute.
No, it was 2-0 at about 50 minutes. That's gone now.
Does that mean Lukaku's not going to get his second goal? Furious. He's in my dream team. Oh, man.
Okay, interesting. There you go. Lukaku was offside. You've just been told by John as well.
Offside.
NT's, but he's just imagining Van Persie and Nistelrooy up front together in a 4-4-2. It'd be terrifying for a defender. And what was quite good about the Man United app is that they have done, obviously they've been watching some of our shows, they did a 5-a-side United team of French players and Dutch players. So, and it was France v Netherlands. So I want you guys to pick. I've done mine. I voted on the app. But it was very interesting. So here they are, right? So the French side was Fabien Barthez in goal, Patrice Evra in defence, Paul Pogba in the midfield,
no, drug is on
Saha up front alongside Eric Cantona. So that's the French five. A good team. And if you're playing 5-a-side, I can imagine Pogba with his little flicks and tricks and skills would be quite an annoying little person to try and play against. However, here's the Dutch side. Edwin van der Sar in goal. Jaap Stam in defence. Arnold Muren in midfield. Robin van Persie up top alongside Ruud van Nistelrooy. So which country, would you two choose? Who do you think would win that 5-a-side battle? Dan?
Got a bit of Dutch.
Martial's not in it. Martial did get in the French one.
He's still injured.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. No, yeah, it's got to be Dutch all day long.
That's for you, Beanie?
Yeah, as soon as you have Stam in there, no one's scoring, are they? Past Big Jaap.
And Van der Sar in goal as well. I mean, that's pretty solid. He's saying no Donny van der Beek. No, he's unfortunately not able to play. But yeah, there we go. So I thought that was quite an interesting little sort of game they'd put in there, which was quite good. So there we go. I think we're all pretty much believing that Denmark and France will still be the team. Denmark and France. The Netherlands and France will still be the ones to make it through. Now, we are going to talk about Group E, but we're going to talk about Group E after we spoke about Group F, due to the fact that Group E is still playing as we speak. So I suppose also we should point out that I did say that Poland were going to make it through as one of my third place teams. So I've already had a terrible error there. But so did you, Dan. So.
But my team's technically not out yet.
Not Poland?
Oh, no, I thought you meant Hungary. I've had lots of clangers here.
Interestingly enough, Beanie had the Netherlands down as being his third place side. So
Scouted.
Looking pretty good there as well. John Commode saying, we can imagine Stam sticking one in on Pogba. I would dream of the day. Huge fan of Captain Ivor and Sahar, love them all exactly, but the Dutch players we've had are elite. And that is absolutely true. John, yeah, you're quite right. You'll have to rewind the tape on that one because we've been there, done that with Scotland v Hungary. And Dan doesn't need reminding us of how awful his prediction was for Group A. Group F, then, as we speak, Portugal, Turkey, Czechia, and Georgia. Interestingly enough, that's what they're supposed to be called now, Czechia, because I was a bit confused as to what was going on, because they've always been Czechoslovakia, then they were the Czech Republic, and now they're Czechia. And we looked into it as to why it is that Sky Sports and other places have now got them as Czechia, and it's because they only want to be known as the Czech Republic in more sort of political sort of things. In any sporting things such as this, they want to be known as Czechia. So there we go. Who are we to argue? Czechia it will be, which, to be honest, is easier to say. So we'll go with that. Not a problem at all. Obviously, today there's been a lot that's gone on. Czechia drawing with Georgia was perhaps not the necessary result for them. Portugal have made it. They're going to qualify, no problems whatsoever. Bit of help there from Bruno. And, of course, an ex-Red, you might have heard of him before, called Cristiano Ronaldo. So they're topping their group, looking good. Turkey finishing second as it stands on 3 points, having lost that game. We all said, in fairness to us, that Portugal would win the league, and they absolutely have done. Interesting, though. Beanie, you agreed with me. You thought Turkey would be the second place side. Dan, you went for Czechia. Obviously, there is a chance of that still happening. So we'll come to you first, Dan. Do you think, having looked at what's been going on in Group F, that Czechia could still go through as the second team? Or do you think, like me, that they are going to go through as a third place team, and that's that?
I would say that one was wide open still, to be honest. I would expect Turkey to probably get the second place and Czech to come through third. Who played today when it was 1-1? It was Czech Republic, Georgia, wasn't it? Yeah.
Georgia drew.
Czech Republic are really lucky because Georgia should have won that game. That chance at the very end. I'm still back. Well, I get how he missed it because it bobbles just as he's about to strike it. But we should have been celebrating an absolute massive Georgia win today. So I think Turkey will have enough to get through second. So, yeah, I think I've got that wrong as well, unfortunately.
I'm pleased they didn't win, because if they get through and Albania get through, that final's still on. That would be embarrassing. We'd probably have to close the channel if that was to occur.
I think the bookmakers had that at about 25,000 to 1.
Just wish you put a pound on it, wouldn't you? For something like that, because that would be life-changing. Year's wages. Beanie, for you, you've gone Portugal, Turkey. It still looks like that, doesn't it? I mean, John Commode refusing to call them Czechia, despite what I just said. Comes down to that Turkey versus Czechia. Turkey very good against Georgia, but poor today. The Czech were unlucky against Portugal, but draw today. He's sticking to Czechia beating Turkey. Are you going to go with that?
Yeah, I think Turkey will. I think Turkey will go through. I thought they were. I can't remember who they played the other night, but I thought they were quite. Was it Czech? Was it the Czechs? Was it the other night that they beat 3-0? I can't remember.
Or was it Georgia 3-1?
Yeah, I thought they looked very good. Then that young lad they've got from Real Madrid, he looks a proper talent. Yeah, and they've got Portugal last, haven't they? Turkey. I haven't looked.
Czech Republic.
Oh yeah, they'll be fine then. I think Turkey will easily go through. I haven't been hugely impressed with the Czechs. Like I said, they should have lost today, quite comfortably. Yeah, Portugal still to win it for me, and Turkey to go through.
Oh, John.
Very interesting. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find what was actually said, because NT's given it the old. Czech is the word most other European languages use for the country. I think in English we say Czech Republic. This is the problem with the English. We refuse to speak other people's languages. When we go there, we go to France. We're all like, yes, voulez-vous, which is, to be fair, an ABBA song, really, rather than just speaking French. So here we go. In 2016, no less, this was 8 years ago, the country's government requested that the name Czechia be used in any sporting, literary, musical or media context, with the name Czech Republic being reserved only for official purposes. It's also apparently viewed to be a more universal name, which will avoid confusion when being translated into other languages. So that feeds into what you were talking about there, and apparently will help boost their reputation abroad. I mean, I instantly prefer them for being known as Czechia rather than the Czech Republic. Like, clearly, that's how we all feel. John Commode was much more clearer. I don't know how to spell it, Barry. That's why I call her the Czech. So apologies to the people of the Czech Republic as a political state. Very good. Very good. But yes, it is this, indeed, Czechia, and that is how it is spelt. And to be fair, like I say, until I'd been looking on Sky Sports on the for this tournament, I was still calling them the Czech Republic myself. And as we said, every day here is a learning day. We learned about the Netherlands and why they're not called Holland anymore. And now we learned about why they're Czechia and not the Czech Republic. So look at us go. Just changing political names of countries as we go along. So who knows what we'll call us next. Yeah, okay, well, that's it. Portugal, Turkey. We've decided that's who's going to be there. It's now 2-0 to Belgium. Kevin De Bruyne, well done. John Commode just getting in there just after I've said it on here. But yes, 2-0 Belgium now, De Bruyne, and it is 2-0 now. Absolutely. Cheers, Cammy. Thank you.
And he should be sent off.
He should what, sorry?
He should have been sent off because that tackle on the goalkeeper is atrocious.
At the goal?
Yeah, he cleans him middle of the knee after slightly touching the ball. It is that, to me, that is properly naughty because he knows what he's doing. He's gone, I'm leaving one on you, bang. He's a lucky boy.
VAR, Dan, and as we know, VAR's never wrong.
I don't know what they've looked at there. I think that should have been A, disallowed, and B, should have been sent off. That is honestly a horrible tackle.
Well, I've got to be honest with you. I was so concentrating on what you call Czechia, and I haven't even spotted that. So I'm
sure they'll show you again. It's not. It's 3-0. Oh, it's
sure
not.
They will, and at that point, I will decide whether you're right or not. Did you see it, Beanie? No, neither of us were paying attention.
No.
NT said he might be wrong in his earlier comment, at least according to Google Translate. But I'm sure in conversation I've heard Czechia used in Spanish, it's had it in Greek. Exactly, that's why they're doing it. That's the whole point. He is right about this, though. Turkey became Turkey too, which is very true. That's on there. So maybe we'll put that on our next show, NT. Why Turkey has gone from being a key to a Kai. Yippee-ki-yay, perhaps. We shall see. We shall see where we are there. And he goes, the world's changing and I don't like change. Don't worry about it. We'll all be getting off soon. So roll with it for now. Right, let's talk. Oh, they've just shown the goal. I've seen the ball go in the net, but I still haven't seen what happened to the goalkeeper. So sorry about that. I could rewind it. I might rewind it. Let's talk about us if it rewinds. Does it rewind? No, can't rewind the live stuff on ITVX. Never mind. So let's move on to this league anyway. It's Romania, Slovakia, Belgium, Ukraine. By far the most interesting group, I think, out of all of them, because you're going to assume now that Belgium are going to win this game. There's only 6.5 minutes left on my clock. So with that in mind, we all said, you all said Belgium and Ukraine to finish first and second. I went for Belgium and Slovakia purely because Slovakia were my sweepstakes team. And, there was no other thinking behind that. And as it stands, Slovakia are indeed second. Romania would still be top. Belgium would be third. Ukraine would be fourth. But all of them have got 3 points. What we're relying on here is a Belgium and a Slovakia win. And that is under, well, I mean, it's definitely not a guarantee. Slovakia have got to play Romania. The Ukraine have got to play Belgium. Obviously, Ukraine can't finish second if Belgium win. Obviously, Belgium can't finish first if the Ukraine win. So that's going to be a big one. Where do we see this one going? We all said which 2 teams we thought were going to go through before we saw a game. Has that changed for you now at all? Beanie, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think Romania are going to go through. I think they'll beat Slovakia in the last game. They played all right tonight. I thought they played quite well against the Ukraine in that first game. Yeah, I think Romania will do enough, and I think Belgium will probably beat the Ukraine as well. So yeah, I'd probably change it to Romania now.
Danny boy, the pipes are calling. What do you reckon?
I would love to see a draw for both teams in the thingy, and then the group stays exactly the same. So Belgium go out, but honestly, I think Ukraine have been rubbish. I know they won last game, but they've not looked good at all. So I think Belgium will beat Ukraine. I think Romania will have enough. I think they'll probably draw with Slovakia, and I think that still puts them through. So I think they'll have enough Romania to get through.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is you said you want it to be a draw so that those teams would go out, but Belgium would still be through, obviously being third, because they would be, as it stands, one of the 4 best teams in third. So I'll tell you which 4 teams are in third place that are the best. You've obviously got Austria and Belgium. They are currently the top 2 with 3 points each. Slovenia are in third of those positions with 2 points. Albania, thanks to goals scored, are currently in the 4th position. It would be Czechia and Scotland that would miss out as it stands. But obviously, a draw or a win for any of those teams could potentially put them into the final stages. Now,
how many go through? Is it 4?
4 of those 6, leaving 8 teams to be knocked out.
Yeah.
Now, part of me hates the fact that we've got this drama going on for third place. We should just have the top 2 teams go through, that sort of thing. My competition integrity is wavering at that point. But it is exciting, isn't it, Beanie?
It gives an extra bit of spice, doesn't it? And it leaves it sort of active for sides like Scotland, that they know if they can get a result that they may sneak in. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's so many dead rubbers enter the last game where teams know that they've gone through and they sort of play out sort of dull draws. Yeah, I think it'll keep the groups sort of interesting until the last kick of them.
Absolutely. I mean, Dan, would you go along with that? Is that how you feel about this? The fact that it is, as you just said, a very good way of not worrying too much about having a dead rubber. There's a bit more interest for teams. So it does mean that you're not in a position where, you've got 2 teams through pretty much, and that's the end of it. It still leaves a bit of a reason, I suppose, for the teams in 3rd and 4th to give it a bit more of a battle. And if so, are you surprised by some of the names that are mentioned there?
I actually think that it keeps the integrity of the competition by doing this. So it stops teams playing out for draws, or teams that know they've lost just don't give up. Like Scotland are on 1 point. If you didn't have the third place finish, they wouldn't be bothered about the last game because they'd already be out. Yeah. So I do think that's why they have these sort of games. It does make it a little bit interesting. I just question why it's not straight to a knockout tournament, to be honest. I get they like the group issue and stuff like that, but you could just see teams and go straight to knockouts and just play a full knockout competition, because we're only losing. Did we work it out as 8 teams that go out? It's not a huge amount after 2 weeks of football to only lose 8 teams. So maybe they could change the format of the competition, but I do like the fact that there is integrity still in the competition because of the 3rd place finish.
Yeah.
I think I tend to agree with you all on that one, for sure. So as you can see, our predictions have not gone too far wrong. Beanie, I'm just going to go to you. You
Your
suggested that England were going to win this and that Harry Kane would be the top goal scorer. Is that still a hill you would die on? Or not?
Yes, I firmly believe England are going to win this tournament, and Harry Kane will be the top goal scorer. Honestly, I do still think that.
Not sure I can believe you when you're saying it while laughing.
I mean,
Yeah, you've got to believe, haven't you? You've got to believe until the final whistle goes and we're out. You've got to believe.
interesting. Very interesting. Dan, for you, you went for Portugal and Mbappe.
I'm going to stick with Portugal because I genuinely think they look really good and they've got a lot of options. I think Portugal's undoing might be the fact that they've got a 41-year-old centre back. As no matter how good he looks, if he comes up against Mbappe, I think he might be in trouble. I'm going to change Mbappe being the top goal scorer though, if I'm allowed, because I think own goals is going to win it. I think we've got 6 now.
Yeah, there's been a few, hasn't there?
No one's going to outscore own goals the way we're going.
Pretty sure own goals isn't a person. I can't imagine that you go, sorry lads, nobody's going to get the trophy today because the own goals were the largest number.
No, I'm going to stick with Mbappe because I do think he'll come good. It's just a shame he's broke his nose.
It's terrible. And I went for Germany and Hoyland. And I still think, I had a good shout with Germany. They've had 2 very good opening games. I do believe that Germany are still going to go on and make full use of the fact that the tournament is at home. But equally, I don't think Hoyland's going to be the top goal scorer anymore. So I'm not sure who will at this point. John Commode saying if we're bad, but have 4 points from 2 games. Hopefully Denmark will be a low point. If we beat Slovenia, it may bring us into the tournament, which tells me that John has potentially rewound the video and is now watching this from the beginning. And has just hit the England conversational points. He's been a bit quiet over the last 10 minutes. That might be what's happened. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's still listening right now and he's just thrown it back a little bit and is responding to what Beanie has just said. To be fair, lads, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about tonight. There's not a huge amount of United news. Have any of you, Beanie, you're often in the old TikTok world. Is that all? Here we go. He is typing live. Yep, see, told you it could just be that. Have you seen anything that's made you pause and think a little bit on the old Man United grapevine?
The Xerxes one looks like it might be picking up a bit of traction. I saw Fabrizio even say that Branthwaite thing has stalled now because Everton want too much money. And I saw him say as well that United pulled out of the Elise one because he wanted too much money, which I think is a good thing. I think it's good that if we have pulled out of the Branthwaite thing because Everton want too much money, I think it's good. But yeah, it's just rumours in it at the moment. Xerxes, David from Lille. Yeah. But like I said, there really isn't much about, is there?
Not at all. And I mean, Dan, from that point of view, I mean, all I'm seeing every morning is Sky Sports saying Man United are linked with somebody and it's always a different person. This is why I hate it. It's just, it's crap basically, isn't it? Until somebody actually says it's gone and it's happened. It's all just sort of stick it to the, throw it to the wall and see what sticks, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm liking it in the minute because I think it shows the club actually doing things the right way because nobody seems to know what's going off. And even for Fabrizio Romano has been way off base with Elise. So yesterday, he tweeted that Man United was still in for Elise 12 minutes before Orstein tweeted that he's gone to Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
And it's a done deal. So even some of the top levels are guessing. I've solely reverted these days to if David Ornstein says it, it's true. If anybody else says it, it's an absolute wallop of lies. There's nothing to it. But it definitely shows the club. I don't think they're drip feeding anything. So I think the reporters are struggling. So they know United get clicks. So they're just trying to dash them as many names as they can out and hope it sticks. But it's the club seem to be doing things the right way. I'll tell you about the Branthwaite deal. I'm not for it at all. The money that's being thrown around now, it's not for me. Same with Elise. Elise is not better than Ahmad, and he wants 250 grand a week. So that's apparently what he's signing for at Bayern Munich. He's not worth the money. So the sensible thing to do if the club was interested is you walk away. I mean, you talk the transfer fee to Bayern Munich looks like 45 million and 5 million in add-ons, which is an absolute bargain for a player like Elise. But if we're talking that sort of money, we're not interested. I wanted to know if you'd seen anything to do with the PSR rumours. So it very much looks like Everton are transferring a player to Villa, who are then going to buy a player from Villa, and then Chelsea are going to buy a player from Newcastle, I think, or something like that, or Newcastle Everton. So it looks like all the teams have come together, and they're going to do like a PSR swap. So they get around the rules because they're doing all these transfers before the end of June. So because Everton has spent 10 million on this Villa lad, Villa can then go and spend 10 million on a Chelsea player, and then Chelsea can then charge 20 million for a youth player. Newcastle can then buy a player from Everton, and all the money moves enough that they all pass the PSR rules before the end of June, which, if that's what the Premier League's turned into, then it's a massive problem. It is a huge problem for football, because they're actively going against the Premier League, because I don't want to keep bringing City into it, because City have got away with it for 10 years. They've gone, you know what? I don't care about these rules. So one of the players that Villa are buying, I think it's Villa, it might be Everton, but one of them are valued at 2 million, and he's going to be signed for 19 million. So well above market value. And there's no rule in place to say they can't do it. It's just a quick way around PSR. But I think the Premier League's in huge danger. If these are genuinely doing that for that reason, which the only way you could sort of test what reason it's for is you'd have to wait and see whether they play next season or not. But I think it puts the Premier League as a whole it's just making it so unwatchable that nobody wants to follow the rules and nobody knows the rules and what's the punishment. So if they do happen,
I would say this has happened for years, though, Dan. You know, people have always found loopholes with money.
Yeah.
This is why when you come back to what we said on Thursday, there's more accountants at Man United than there is football people. Ultimately, if you're in that situation, people are going to find ways to get around it. That's literally what they're paid for. You know, how do we get more bang for our buck, I suppose? And that's exactly what people are doing now. But that's the whole point, and why I sit there and go, you should just be allowed to spend what you earn, purely because if you're able to do that, then it's not going to, you know, you haven't got all of these rules and all these problems. But if you're trying to create a level playing field, and people talk about the changes that are being made, the fact that there was the talk about perhaps having a 60-minute play clock that just stops whenever the ball goes out of play, you know, these sorts of things. The fact that we're talking about challenges perhaps on VAR, and they want to Americanize a lot. For me, that's where we're Americanizing the game as well. If we start trying to make it a completely level playing field, just what they do in America. You're only allowed a certain amount on a salary. You know, that might be a way to do it. You know, have a salary cap for every single club, because then that way, if they're only allowed to spend a certain amount on salary, it shouldn't be anything to do with your budget in terms of what you can afford in terms of buying people. The salary cap should be perhaps the thing that we put a ceiling on. If you do that, that then becomes a much better world, because now you're not paying £325,000 a week for someone to sit on your bench or bugger off to another country and not play, because they know they're still going to get 325 grand a week. To me, that's maybe a better route to go down, because otherwise we are just in a situation where people will try and find a way to circumnavigate the rules. And yeah, it sounds to me like that's what's happening. John Camo just asking, out of curiosity, would we prefer to sign Gay or Branthwaite if you had the choice? So who would you pick, Meanie?
I'd pick Branthwaite, but not for the money that's being quoted. So in that case, I'd probably go Gay, but it'd be Branthwaite if I had to choose.
Okay, Dan?
Do you know what? I'd probably pick Gay. But again, more so for the money that's being asked for Branthwaite. I think the better deal would then be Gay. But honestly, I think Palace would ask for a lot anyway. So it's really similar, but whichever one we can get on the better deal. But they're both really good players. I mean, Branthwaite's not as good as I don't want to contradict myself, but he's not as good as people are making him out to be. He's a good footballer, and he looks like he could have a promising future. But he's not an £80 million centre back. It's ridiculous that it's even been quoted that. But again, I get Everton's point of view.
Proven as people think he is.
Yeah. I did have a question actually, while I remember. So we've all seen Fernandez's amazing finish today, absolute world class. No one else would have scored from there. Ronaldo knew, didn't he? He knew that with that assist, because I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, they can't believe he passed it." Ronaldo knew that if he passed that ball, he would have the most assists at European finals.
Yeah.
Do you think he knew?
I reckon so. Yeah. I reckon he pays a lot more of attention to these stats than people give him credit for.
What about you? Do you think he knew?
I don't know. I don't. He's a very clever man in terms of wanting the statistics. You know, he'll be desperate for anything that puts him above Messi. And so having that string to his bow would be great. But obviously what he forgets is that, or I say he forgets it, but you know, Messi's not European, so he can never beat him in this one regardless. But I think you're right. You know, he wants his name everywhere. He always wants to be. You know, let's be honest. That's why he came to Man United. There's part of me that would love to think he just came to us because he loved us, and maybe he does. But the real reason he came to Man United was because if he could turn around our alien fortunes, it would be Ronaldo that did it.
Yeah.
And you know, it is very much for me all about Cristiano Ronaldo. John Commode saying here, if Ronaldo had scored it, he would have been the first player to score at €6, I think, which would also have been a record. So
it would have. But I just think as he's running through and he sees the angle narrow, he's gone, I've got an assist record here. I'll just tap that across because I'm going to get a penalty at some point. So I'm going to get the record anyway. So I think he genuinely knows in his head, if I do these things, my name is in history for a long time. And I think it does go through his head as he's running through I can just pass that across, and then I'm on another record.
Well, NT saying he knew his personal records are something he's proud of, and he should be too. He also mentioned a little bit earlier on, he thought before the Euros that Gay was a better player. Even if he lost his head a bit versus Denmark, he still looked good overall. They probably cost more or less the same too. So I'm just going to say neither of them, really. I don't think either of them are what I would call Manchester United level. You know, if you had the option between Martinez and those two, who would you pick?
I mean, Beanie's only one response here that's come in my head, and it's just to keep playing Willie.
Wow.
Just keep playing Willie.
No, but on a serious note, like, will Camboila get more minutes? Like, he's already talked that we're going to sign two centre backs. Complete nonsense, and he's just going to play Camboila more.
Or you're going to get Branthwaite. I would play Camboila over them two. Because number one, it doesn't cost us anything. And number two, I don't think he's going to be that far off their level of quality. Anyway.
But you're paying for potential in Branthwaite and Gahey anyway. You're paying like massive, especially for Branthwaite, you're paying massive money. A little bit like the Hoyland thing because of the potential in him being a young lad. So who's to say Camboila isn't going to hit that level as well?
I fully agree. I think if you're going to take a risk on a player like Branthwaite that's got one decent season under his belt, same as Gay, he's got a couple, but just why not just take the risk with Camboila and strengthen where players could be better? We do need a new centre back for sure, but do we need to spend 70? I mean, it's annoying because we could go and get Todibo from Nice, but apparently we're not allowed, and he's half the price of them, and he would be really decent backup. I mean, it's an interesting one for me, but I wouldn't be going and paying huge money anymore. We need to do what we've done with Elise. Do you know what? If that's too much money for us, Ahmad can have more minutes.
Yeah, it's like you say with Elise. But is Diallo that much worse, or and then
I mean, to be fair, I put my hand up because I did push a button and it didn't work. Let me try that again. Everybody's up.
I thought you wanted to say something then. I thought he was like, can I say something?
I was just saying hello. I went a little bit wrong. Find that. Oh, God, very, very wrong indeed. There's a swathe of you all coming in at the moment as we get towards the end of our show. So if you've popped in, please do like and subscribe, and eventually rewind and have a little look at all of the stuff we have spoken about. John Commode saying he would probably go Gay now. Palace want a big fee, but you can maybe trade him Wan-Bissaka in return. I don't know that I would necessarily do that, but that's
Then he needs on
reasonable.
the right back.
Indeed. Here's another question. Would you take Ronaldo next season if he came on a free and reasonable wages, or has that ship sailed?
No, I wouldn't.
No. I think the ship sailed more because it's less about the free and the reasonable. I think he'd still have the same problems with the club.
Yeah.
The fact that he went out and had that conversation with Piers Morgan, did the interview without the club knowing, let it all go out and sort of trashed it. I think he's burnt the bridge.
Yeah.
If I'm honest. He certainly burnt the bridge for me. You know, he came to us a legend. He's gone away a bit more of an icon, really, than a legend. I'm not, you know, it's left a bit of taste in the mouth. I've got to be honest. Bestie saying he would pay for Antonio Silva before Braithwaite. And NT saying, I just want to know where ECH was planning on playing Braithwaite to begin with. And I would say, based on what we've done with some of our players, probably right wing. So
left back.
Do you know what? I did look into Braithwaite quite a lot.
Hey, Dan.
If
we needed a left back, you could always put Anthony there, eh, Dan?
Exactly, yeah. He did it for one game, and then it caused a dressing room stir. Yeah, but I was looking at Braithwaite, and apparently he's left-footed, but he's like Johnny Evans. He's ambidextrous. So Johnny Evans is actually right-footed, and people think he's left-footed. So he could play right centre-back if we need him to. Maybe he sees him playing there. I want to see a little bit more movement from the club, to be fair, in terms of transfers.
Do you know what it is for me? And I don't know, maybe I've turned into a Man United fan. There's a little bit of snobbish. Maybe that's what's happened. But Antonio Valencia, turned out to be a very good player for Manchester United. He really did. But for the first few years, and certainly the moment he signed, I was sat there going, but we got him from Wigan. Wilfried Zaha was meant to be the next big thing. And I couldn't help but think, yeah, but we got him from Palace. Yeah. And I'm seeing the names of people that we're being linked with at the moment. And nearly all of them are from teams that are stuck in the sort of situation that we're in, potential mid-table or below. Is it right that these are the names we should be? I'm just not excited by any of the names that are being mentioned. Is this part of the problem? Do we think that we just can't attract these players that are at a higher level? Louis Saha came from Fulham. He did. Wilfried Zaha came from Crystal Palace. And yeah, you know, to be fair, Saha was good, but we'd seen him play internationally. You know, he was a bit older, sort of 26, 27. And I think that's the difference. The players that we're being linked with are young, and again, from sort of lower down. And so they're not proven, which is what I think Dan was saying. Van der Sar came from Fulham. Yes, but he was older. Really not. I don't think we're getting there with this. The people that we're talking about are just young. And we've got young. You know, we've got a great academy and we've got players that can come through from that. And we don't have to go off and get these youngsters. Why is it we're not being linked with anyone who's remotely exciting at the moment?
Can we attract them still, though? Do you think United are an attractive proposition at the moment?
How can we not be attractive for some people?
I'd struggle to, if I was a player, I'd struggle to look at United at the minute because we're a bit of a mess. I'd struggle to look there and see it as an attractive proposition for anything other than money. When you've probably got, I don't know, like Liverpool, for example, as much as it hurts me to say, Liverpool would probably be a better proposition for a player at the minute.
But that's only if Liverpool are coming in for them.
Well, yeah.
And this is the thing, you know, we have this same argument with the women's team. You know, we talk about how we're not in the Women's Champions League, so therefore people are going to choose Man City, Chelsea and Arsenal over Manchester United because, you know, they've got the chance to play a wider brand of football. But with us, they're still going to get European football. There's still an upward trajectory to be had. And I refuse to believe that people wouldn't come to Manchester United for the name of Manchester United, the ability to have that opportunity to to fight and put the team back to where it could be, because we're not a million miles away from it in terms of signings. I don't think, we get 5 or 6 good signings. We're in there with a chance to challenge. You think of how poor Arsenal would be, and after a couple of years, if Ten Hag is as good as we think he could be, he needs to have that conversation with people, and he needs to sell the project. So this is what I mean. He needs to know what it is he wants to do and say, look, this is what I'm planning. This is what I've got in my eyes. I've got, a new centre back coming in. I want to get a left back here. Maybe it's not going to be this season, but in a couple of seasons' time, this is what we're looking to do. This is how we want to be. And, I think I agree here. We're trying to find younger up and coming players, but the trick is actually correctly identifying them and making sure the right characters as well as having the ability and potential. Bestie, I knew there was a reason I loved you. And John Commode saying, look at City though. Ake from Bournemouth. I don't really rate him. Stones from Everton. I saw your mate from TikTok, Daz, say, that John Stones is one of the best defenders in world football. I disagree. He's just a paint trophy. Mane, he's all right. Van Dijk, overrated in my opinion. People think he's the world's best defender. I don't think he is. Robertson from Hull, he's all right. He's no Luke Shaw. It's not always from where they are, but the profile is important. Of course, you're going to get some at a young age that will do well, but I don't think these players are it. And Wilfried Zaha is my case in point for that. You can be incredibly good at a lower level like Crystal Palace and stand out because all of the other players are not necessarily at the level you're at. But then when you come to Manchester United or you go to City or you go somewhere else, the level's higher and you've got to try and be better than that level. And that's not always possible. So I don't know. They're all going to come at me for this one. Erwin from Oldham, Schmeichel from Brøndby, Sharp from it's a different world, mate. We're not talking about the 80s and 90s anymore. Oldham were a good team back then. Torquay were the world's worst team. Brøndby were the best team in Denmark. You're talking about different worlds. If you're telling me that the Crystal Palace of now is a world-class football team, then I've got a bridge to sell you. Because it ain't happening. So the names of the people that we are trying to be linked with, and you know what I'm trying to say, John, you absolutely do know what I'm trying to say. They are not constantly fighting for the top 4. They're not constantly fighting for European places, not really. So what on earth are we doing? Why are we being linked with these? Why is there no one? There's got to be a marquee signing somewhere. And I don't necessarily want another huge name, but at least someone that we know has got a bit more experience in the levels we're looking to go and play at.
See, I look at it slightly different in terms of Man United not being a possible of getting a marquee signing anymore. I don't want any marquee signings anymore because we've been taken for a ride for a decade by marquee signings that want 500 grand a week, 350 grand a week. They don't actually want to come to the club because they want to lift the Champions League with us. They want to win the Premier League with us. They want to come to the club because near the end of the career, Sanchez, not Lukaku, but it was the same sort of thing. They want 350 grand a week. Sweet, I'm set. It's a last big contract. It's at Manchester United. It's a big name. I want players like, I agree with some points, but we was linked with Mane. I can remember when, I think it was Van Gaal was in, we was linked with Mane and we got completely laughed at by every social media platform. Why do you want to play like him? Goes to Liverpool. In my opinion, he's been one of the best that we've seen at Liverpool in terms of wingers in the last decade. The same with Salah. The same Robertson cost 2.4 million, and it's about profile. It's about the profile player. So Van Dijk's probably the best example. Yeah, they paid a lot for him. Yeah, he's on big wages, but Liverpool said, "We want you," and he went, "Yep, I want to come to Liverpool. Just Liverpool. I don't care about wages. You just pay me a fair amount." Same with Salah, and I'll come. And then I think Liverpool got in trouble actually because Southampton was like, "We're not happy with this. Like the way you've gone about it, we're not happy." But Van Dijk basically went to Southampton and said, "I want to go there, nowhere else." And the bargaining position then that Southampton was in was, "Oh, balls, we've got an unhappy player and he only wants to go to one team. We need to go and find players that are saying to their club, I want to play for Man United, and it's not about me getting 300 grand a week." Like Elise would be prime. Apparently for 2 years, he's been saying, "I want to play for Man United. I want to play for Man United." He's been offered 250 grand at Bayern Munich, and he's gone, "Oh, yeah, I'll take that. was never the right player for us. Glad that he's not come. We need a player to go. I want to go Man United, and that's it. End of discussion. You make it happen with my agent. I want to go there. Like, because then that puts United in a better driving point in terms of, well, we know he only wants to come through us. There's no messing about. And we just need to stop these players coming into the boardroom and going, you know what, I deserve to be on. It's Man United. I should triple my wages for coming here. I think Branthwaite's one of them. He's on 40k a week, and the rumour is we'd give him 150. It's too much money. What's he done in the game of football in the last 2 years to be on 150 grand a week at Man United? The answer's nothing. And it was the same with Sancho. What had Sancho done at Borussia Dortmund to actually show that he was worth the value of Ronaldo in terms of money and wages when he left for Real Madrid? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's the problem. We're giving what social media would say is a world-class player because he got 10 goals and assists that season, loads of money, and it just doesn't work. We need to find the players that actually want to be at the club. And I say it constantly on these streams. Someone like Scott McTominay, Harry Maguire, they want to be there because they want to play for Manchester United, irrelevant of wage, irrelevant of like prospects, just they want to be there. Dallo said something in an interview the other week, and it was something like, can you imagine coming to Manchester United and being the player that turns it back round? You'll be a legend forever. And that's exactly what the club's selling point should be. It should be, can you imagine making this club return to the glory days of Ferguson, Busby? Because that's probably the best selling point to a player to get, you know what? Yeah, I can imagine doing that. I want to do that. I want to be part of that. And we need to avoid those other players at the minute that aren't like that. I don't want to see another 80 million spent on a player that's going to be not interested in 6 months because he's on 400 grand a week.
But this is what I was talking about in terms of the youth. You know, it's very interesting. It's certainly, it's certainly pulled out a lot of opinions and thoughts. John's saying, Oldham were a good team then, but we're in the second division when we signed Owen. I do get your point, Barry, not having to go, but again, it was the 80s and 90s. It was a very different world. It wasn't what we're talking about right now. I'm not sure I completely agree with this. I wouldn't say has little say on transfers. He's just got an equal amount of say as a lot of other people at the club, hence lying the problem. NT saying, I think Zaha would have been better for United if Sir Alex Ferguson was managing him. Well, he bought him. You know, he was the one who bought him, and he didn't necessarily give him those chances. Rather than coming to a crumbling team, which was again under Alex Ferguson, and a club with managers that were struggling to appease the fans and board. Now, granted, David Moyes did give him a few more chances, and he had a few more chances went on, but he was still didn't reach that level. You know, not every player that Alex Ferguson signed was, you know, God's gift to football. Bebe, for example, is a perfect example of that. And you're right, Palace and Everton are not top four teams, but building a team and may sign players from lower teams who are used to playing as a team. Palace will give everyone a game. Well, they will, and they did very well against us. They beat us. But
they only did once Hodgson had left. Before that, that same team was absolutely dire. So that is more to do with them fitting the new manager's way of playing than the players themselves actually stepping up. Because they couldn't do it under Hodgson. They only could do it when the system suited.
Exactly. And I'm not saying under any circumstances that buying lower down players doesn't work. We know it does. But if all of the people you're being linked with are these players that are lower down and are not playing for teams that have got the same objectives and desires as we do, that's a little bit crazy. You know, when you buy a Mason Mount from Chelsea, he's a recognised player that we've heard of that is playing from a side that has been successful within the last sort of 10 years or so. We're not talking about that when you're talking about Crystal Palace. When was the last time they were successful at anything? It's been a very long time. So, you know, you can find them, but they're still not going to be the answer to your puzzle necessarily. And if you're sitting there and saying to me, we need to get in young players, well, then it's Benny, one of the OGs from Saturday Night Live. He's popped in. Lovely to see you, Ben. He's put Harry Amas could be potentially an actual successor to Luke Shaw, depending on how Shaw fares with the injuries this season. And this is what I'm saying. We're talking about the fact we haven't got any money. So why are we going and just, you know, spunking it all up a wall on these players when we've got a youth system of players that we've already seen can do well? Camboila's come on and he's done well.
Tell you what, Barry, you
Maybe
sound
he's done it.
more and
And
more
he's
like me
taken it
every
by the
week.
horn. Garnacho's done it. He's taken it by the horns.
I can't wait
players
for
that
Barry to
support
be
him.
on here next season every weekend going, why are we not playing youth players? What's going on?
It's
Me or last
that's
year?
not where I'm going with it, because you've got to play with the team you've got.
Yeah.
And if we've ended up buying these players, you're going to have to play them. But my point is, if this is your thought that we need to buy below us, give the youth the chance. Get the money in, because then we're going to get a swathe of money coming in from sponsorship, and we've not sent any out. So now all of a sudden you're starting to build up the reserves. We spent so much money on these big money signings that's where all the money's gone. And as a result, we were in a situation where we couldn't afford to pay anymore. We couldn't afford to buy the players in. So if we start building up that bank balance again, showing how much money we can get in, plus including getting rid of some of the deadwood that we don't necessarily need this season, that all of a sudden frees up those wages. So when you do start getting some players that are more likely to come on the radar, that have been well scouted and we know are going to come good, we're in a better spot. That's just my take on it. Bath Times put us the lads. I never expected a Tim Burton theme tonight. I'm not entirely sure where you were going with that one. Although I do admit I do go a bit dark if I lean back a little bit, just because of the light in here. And he's also mentioned that, Sancho's stats at Borussia were right up there with Messi at the time. And this is half the problem again. We buy players, and you'd include someone like Paul Pogba in that as well, who does incredibly well elsewhere, and then they haven't done well here. So we do have to ask ourselves, what on earth is going on at our football club that we can't get these players in and have them do as well as they could do? I agree with this. What's Branthwaite shown that Cambuala hasn't? I agree. That's why I would just keep Cambuala. Bath Time would go for Chaloba rather than Braithwaite, which is absolutely fine, or Branthwaite, I think it is. And again, lots of conversation between you all. You're all absolutely brilliant with your little fights you're having in there. It's wonderful. ETH doesn't have final say on transfers going forward. Nobody has final say on transfer. I don't think you're understanding how it works at United. This is exactly the problem with Manchester United. Let's say I'm Eric Ten Hag, because I'm the one with the least hair here. So I'm Eric Ten Hag. Dan can be somebody on the boardroom, potentially John Murta at the time, something like that. And just below us, we can have the little Glazer boy just there. And all three of us have got a say. So I, as the manager, come in and I say, I want to buy Anthony for £80 million. Dan goes, that's who you think you need, El, that's exactly what you can have. Go for it. No problems. But Mr. Glazer goes down, sorry, how much? Oh, no, we're not giving you that much money for him. Absolutely not happening. Go and find somebody else. Then I have to. But by the same token, if these two say, we want to get a player in, and I go, I don't think he's going to fit my system, that's a veto. That's the whole point. You have a conversation, and it's almost got to be a sort of fully agreed sort of thing. So he may not have final say, as in he's the sole voice. This is the problem. Too many voices. And who's the person that loses their job if the transfers don't work? Me. I would lose my job. Whereas these two just sit there carrying on running the club and taking all the money out of it. And this guy just doing what he wants to do. And it's always me that would get into trouble. Hence why we're in this ridiculous cycle of just getting rid of managers time and time again, when it's not even fully their fault, because of the fact it's not, as you say, fully their decision. So you're not a million miles wrong. But there we go. So, yeah, very few of them have worked out. Vardy is a backup and teacher for Hoyland for one season. Call me crazy. You're crazy. Not a problem, bestie. Since Ten Hag is staying, will we sign the players he needs for his system? I mean, I hope so. NT saying it's a bit too early for Amas. I mean, I disagree. Rooney was 17 when he came in. At the end of the day, if you're good enough, you're old enough. The problem that we've got is we can't be relying on him at the age of 17. And that'll be the thing. He can't come in and be the main left back. But if Shaw's okay, you blood these players in and you build them up properly. That would be a nicer way of doing it.
That's the rumour on that one as well. That is the rumour. The rumour is they're going to stick him in and around the first team next year. Hopefully there'll be a left back that's fit, and then he could come in and play some games ready for 2026. And that's exactly how it should be done. And that's the issue currently. Mainu's relied on too much. Garnacho's relied on too much. like I say, I'm a massive fan of youth, and I must have said every weekend for 6 months why we're not playing more youth. But it's not that I want them to be over relied on. I just want them to be given a chance, because some of these players are good enough if we give them the chance. And I think we've not given the chance in the past because we've gone and signed players that just don't work.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Benny's picked in with the under-16s next season. It's going to be so frightening for opposing teams that age group. And I'm not convinced we could be playing too many under-16s. That might be going a bit too young. The Premier League, maybe give them a Coca-Cola Cup chance, shall we?
We know Benny will be watching them.
Exactly right. And again, then the under-15s, which is definitely too young. I'm sure there must be a law against that. But again, this is what we're saying. The youth is there. The structure is there. Plus, we're spending that 50 million to make Carrington better again and get some more world-class facilities there. So, you know, there's lots in there. Bath time saying the structures that he identifies a position he wants strengthened and is then given a list of 3 or 4 targets, and it's discussed between them and the manager. So, again, that goes down what I'm saying. Dav saying his system isn't working. He'll toe the club line, but we're gone by Christmas. We'll see. We decided by the club from academy to first team. Ten Hag will play a system. So, yeah, very good. Why? Oh, for Vardy. Here we go. So Vardy can still play. Somebody's a natural scorer. He could teach Oil and Well, Ronaldo could do that. Yeah, there's lots of players you could get in that could do that. I would just suggest that actually it's just a coach you need. You know, you're getting a decent coach who can do that. You don't necessarily need to have a Jamie Vardy. Vardy's not really going to give us too much, I don't think. He's only just about got to the Premier League again with Leicester. He is a good player. Of course he is. And he is an actual goal scorer, but he's not necessarily the type of goal scorer that Manchester United play for. You know, he's all about chasing those balls that go over the top all the time and getting in behind, which is good. Not necessarily what Højlund does, where he is rapid. So I can see your point. I see where you're going with. And you did tell me to call you crazy. That was the start of it. And so I did. So, you know, I'm not sure you fully believe it yourself as well with this whole for one season thing. But if we bring him in as a coach, I'd go with you there. You know, if he's hanging up his boots, I think he'd make an incredibly good coach.
It could have been a worse shout. We could have said Weghorst. Could have got Weghorst in to teach him some things.
Don't even go there with that. That would be atrocious. But yeah, Rooney was the best 17-year-old since Pele. Very hard to compare anyone to him, except Rasmus Højlund, who had a very similar goal-scoring record in his first season at Manchester United. Rasmus would benefit more from competition than learning. I agree with that as well. And hopefully got some decent steak pies if they had a new cafe with 50 million on Carrington. To be fair, the steak pies at Man United are... So just get the guys in to do that. We've gone way past. I said to Dan we're going to have a shorter show today, which was obviously Connor. And then all of you came in at the end. You've obviously all decided we finished watching that match that was on the telly. Now we'll go and see what's on the internet. And you all came in late and had a little chat with us, and we love you for it. So thank you for coming in and giving us something a bit more to finish the show off a bit spicier. If you haven't seen it so far, we did. Those pies are hotter. Prime Chernobyl, yes. Yes, they are. But thankfully, not quite as toxic. So, yeah, if you have come in and had a little chat with us afterwards, thank you so much for joining us. It's been much appreciated. We've enjoyed that. Do go back and have a little look at our conversations all about the €6 groups and whereabouts we are. It absolutely is the GOAT. That's more like it, NT. Well done. The ghost of Connor that made the stream longer. It is always Connor's fault. Andy, what's your TikTok stream? What's it called?
MUFC Beanie 7.
Still started with an We're definitely going to get there. We're definitely going to get there. Bestie saying that's a good point. I didn't think of it that way with Vardy. We all think differently. And you know what? If we did get Jamie Vardy, I'd still probably prefer him to a 20-odd-year-old Jared Branthwaite. So he's got the experience, as you say. So I probably would prefer a bit of that. Dan, pleasure to have you with us as well. Thank you all for joining us. It has been brilliant. We're going to be back with a midweek one, I am sure. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday when we play the England game.
Yeah, I think we agreed Tuesday.
So I think we're going to be back on Wednesday to have a little chat, see where we are with the England game having been played, and hopefully there'll be some more stuff to chat about. But there'll certainly be midweek mayhem. We'll throw in another Saturday Night Live. So we will see you all soon. Don't have much else to say other than have a safe evening, a brilliant weekend, and we'll see you next time. Ta-da!